Hi there everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to a new deck profile for Final Fantasy TCG. Now, there's a lot of fans for Final Fantasy XIII out there, and there's a little engine that's come as of, well, Opus 9 really, that I've been wanting to utilise for the longest time, and I've finally figured out the deck that I want to play it in, so I wanted to share it with you guys. It actually features a couple of cards that have been spoiled for Opus X as well, so if you're interested in seeing what the FF13 cast can do and what cards for that engine may have turned up for Opus X, then stay tuned and keep on watching. As always, everybody, don't forget to check out all of the social media links in the description box below, including my Facebook, my Twitter, my Twitch channel for anyone who wants to follow that, my Patreon for anyone who wants to support the channel further, and all sorts of different social media links. I am also happy to announce the winner of the Cactuar giveaway on this video, and that winner is going to be getting all three of the full art Cactuars for Final Fantasy. You'll have to forgive the fact that my green screen doesn't like these very much, but they are all going to be going to Melvin, so congratulations on your win there. And he simply answered the question, what is your favourite Final Fantasy TCG card? And his answer was Warrior of Light, or WoL, from Mobius Final Fantasy. Also a favourite of mine, so I can see how that one may have been picked out by the randomizer there. Anyways, if you're waiting to hear from the winner, or who the winner is for the Sephiroth portrait, you're going to have to wait just a little bit longer and wait for my next Opera Omnia video, because I wanted to kind of make sure that I catered to all of my followings. So congratulations to Melvin, I shall be sending those out to you as soon as possible. Do get into contact with me as quickly as you can, and I shall send you an email just to make sure as well. And obviously don't forget to check out FFX.com because it's a fantastic resource for anything FFTCG related. And stay tuned for tomorrow as well, because I might have a little extra something to show you guys for really good with regards to Opus X as well. So as you can see here, I've titled the deck Witch Blitz because, or FF13 Witch Blitz, because it contains a lot of FF13 stuff, but it has a little extra twinge to it. As I said earlier, don't forget to check out FFX.com because you can see here it's got all the resources you could possibly need when it comes to building a deck, looking at other people's decks, like having a look at tournament results, all sorts of different things, and they give you all the analytics you would ever need as well. So do go and check that website out and do go and support them. But what I want to talk about here is, first of all, the engine that I mentioned at the beginning of the video. Now, the engine that I've been dying to use is Mog 13, Opus 5 Sarah, Herdy from Opus 9, and Illawa. So what that means is you have a nice, consistent search engine for three different parts of the deck that also just have high value. So Mog is essentially a 1 CP backup searching for Sarah. Sarah is essentially a 3 CP EX burst searcher forward that searches for any Moogle, so you can grab a 2 CP or a 3 CP, preferably Herdy, because Herdy reveals the top card of your deck and adds it to your hand as long as it's a character, which is why there's very, very few summons in this deck. But there's actually two reasons why there's very few summons in this deck, but I'll get to that in a moment. But you've got a nice little engine there, and then by having Herdy on the board, your Illawas become 10 times more threatening, because at any time, as long as there is an Illawa in your break zone, you can activate her S ability at any time at the cost of just Herdy. And because Herdy is such good value anyway, you could just play another one and it doesn't really affect you too badly. But I really struggled for a long time to look at where I could fit this deck together, and I thought, oh, how do I make this work? And then I realised that you've actually got quite a lot of FF13 support coming out in Opus X. So the Knoll that you can see in the deck list actually isn't Opus 1 Knoll, it's Opus X Knoll. It just hasn't been uploaded to FFX just yet because it was only revealed a couple of days ago. But Opus X Knoll is an essentially slightly smaller Estinian, because he can attack twice, that keeps Sarah protected, which is really quite strong actually for a 4 CP 8k. So by having Class 11th Moogle and Class 3rd Moogle, they are both activatable by Sarah, and they can also power up multiple forwards that you have, depending on which one you have. I've only gone for one of each because I don't think it's necessary to have them both out at any given time. But you can either boost Sarah herself, or you can boost up Knoll, or you can boost up any of your other attackers with those two. Multiple times if you use Sarah, if Sarah's the one attacking, which is really nice. And then Knoll can keep her protected so that she can attack more safely, and it just kind of works really nicely together. There was actually an Opus X Lightning that was spoiled pretty recently as well, which is gorgeous and I love it, but in this deck it's not actually the place for it to go. In this deck I've opted for the 2 CP Lightning backup, which grants any FF13 forward haste. Now the issue that I had with Knoll when he was revealed is that he didn't have haste, because, you know, Estinian, much less powerful card if he doesn't have haste. Knoll is a cheaper version of Estinian, admittedly, but he still has that double attack thing that you think, oh god, I really need to put something into Null to make him so that he has haste and it makes him that much more powerful. Lightning actually does that for him because he's an FF13 forward. So it actually works out really quite nicely, especially considering the fact that you don't have to have 5 backups out for him to have haste. You just have to have lightning out. And then the snow that I've opted for also isn't the regular snow that you would look at. I actually got this idea from Sasha from Germany, who's a good friend of mine, and I've seen him play like variants of this where he's used like snow and lightning together, and I absolutely love it. Because what happens is this snow is Opus 5 snow, and when you play snow, you can pay X, and if you do, you can search for a lightning and put it onto the board. Obviously, most lightning forwards are the first things that people think of, but they're actually very expensive. But lightning is only a 2 CP backup that can be searched for by snow. So therefore, say turn 1, you discard 3 cards, you get a 7k forward and a lightning straight away. And that's actually pretty powerful because it sets you up, because then the next turn you can play Mog, or any of the searches in this deck, because there's actually quite a few of them. You've got Mog, Gramis, and Acidic Clan Galley. Herdy is essentially a 1 CP backup as well. And then you've got loads of nice kind of aggro plays, which is where the Blitz part of the name of this deck comes from, that just work really well. And then Lightning, having haste on demand for any of your FF13 forwards, which includes Rigdia, so it means you can get an attack in after an Al-Cid combo, which is really nice, which is why I've gone for more Rigdias and less Onion Knights, because Onion Knight doesn't trigger very much at all, apart from Al-Cid. So I've only gone for 1 copy of him because you could put a second one in, but I've gone for 1, and then there's so many other targets in the deck for him. So you've got Illawa, you've got Cypher, you've got Maya, you've got Rigdia. There's loads of targets for Al-Cid, so you're not wanting for them, but you obviously want to get that damage in, and then being able to give haste to Rigdia on top of it is actually pretty nice. Twilight Odin is actually a card I'd quite like to highlight in this deck build as well, because again, it's an FF13 forward, which means lightning, well, it's a monster that turns into a forward, which lightning can give haste to, but obviously it costs a little extra, so 4 CP to play a Twilight Odin, 1 to activate him, and then lightning to give him haste. But that's actually really powerful. 6 CP to get a point of damage in and kill any forward as long as they can't block it, which isn't difficult in this deck. It's actually really quite strong. You can do it quite frequently as well, and then having Twilight Odin means that you're slightly more protected from plays like Shantotto, because you still have a forward. It means that you've got a presence on the board at all times. And because you're playing Sarah, the cost to activate Twilight Odin isn't really there if you have Sarah out, so there's that to bear in mind as well. The other thing is that because we're only running Glacial Abolus by way of trying to cater to Herdy, and only Twilight Odin, Lock in this deck serves 2 functions. Lock is an amazing turn 1 play. You play Lock, you got cool backup, you search for another backup, you've got your turn 2 backup down, or even turn 1 if you want it. In this deck, however, even mid to late game, if you call Summon or Monster, you know exactly what you're going to get, because you will always get Glacier if you pick Summon, or Twilight Odin if you pick Monster. So if you're actively looking for one of those cards, you will always get it if you use Lock, and that's actually a really nice sort of extra side to Lock that I don't think gets used very often, and I thought it would be a really fun way to highlight the card. Now, I called the deck FF13 Witch Blitz for a reason, and it's because there's a small witch engine in this deck. So we have Idea backup, which can grab any of them from the break zone. We have Cypher, who can search for any of them. You have Maya, who is just a fantastic card in general, and we have a single copy of Ultimecia. Now, one of the things that I wanted to have going into this deck was the idea of putting your opponent in difficult positions. So by having Illawa and Herdy out, your opponent has to think twice before they attack or block, because you could use Illawa and just have them lose 2,000 power, or worse, you could use Illawa twice if you already have an Illawa in hand, and that's pretty threatening in and of itself. But if they go all in, Illawa again can give everything haste and you just go in. But you also have the option of running Idea. Just by having an Idea out, Ultimecia becomes a massive threat late game, but there's only 1 copy in the deck because she's only particularly good late game, or Maya. And Maya can just dull a guy whenever she wants, so you go into combat, dull a guy, or give Sarah first strike, or give Noel first strike, or anything like that, and it's actually pretty relevant. And then again, Maya works more efficiently if you've already got to a point of 5 points of damage. So between Illawa and between Maya and Ultimecia, you have this massive kind of late game presence that suddenly your deck just ramps up in power, and that's really nice, considering it's an aggro deck and you really want to push those last bits of damage in. And then Cypher's an EX Burst Searcher, which is always handy. Alongside Reagan, who I'll come to in a moment, and Sarah, you don't have many EX Bursts in this deck because neither Lightning nor Ice tends to have many that work outside of monocolor decks. but at least there's a few and there's not none at all. Speaking of Reagan, I have put in a small dark, well actually a relatively large dark engine into this deck, but I do think that if I were to change anything in this particular build, I'd probably cut this down. So you have Emperor Gestal, which I think is a fantastic backup that is starting to see more play because you're building while taking something out, and that's just quite nice, but you also have the ability to remove it when you don't need it anymore. And then Reagan is a card that I wanted to highlight from Opus X because I think that it being a 3 CP brings something back from the break zone, EX burst, or well 5 CP brings something back from the break zone, effectively making him 3 CP, brings something back from the break zone. It just seems really useful. Like you can play Gestal, you can use Gestal to cheat Reagan in and pick the Gestal back up. But the issue I have with that is that Reagan then has to die for you then to be able to play Gestal again, which is why I've then put Camlanaut and Chaos in there. Camlanaut and Emperor Gestal work fairly well on their own because Camlanaut can change his element from Dark so that you're then able to play Emperor Gestal after you've searched for it. But then I discovered if you have Emperor Gestal out first, you can then play Camlanaut to then search up the second Emperor Gestal, which is why there's 2, and then that way you've got a nice little removal engine and a big old body in Camlanaut. So if anything, you could take out Chaos and Reagan if you wanted to, but I want to experiment with Reagan because I think that Camlanaut, Reagan and Emperor Gestal, giving you access to Dark from your deck, your break zone and your hand is actually quite nice, and I wanted to experiment with it. Then the last few cards that I want to talk about are the kind of generically good cards. Like I said, we've got Alcid in here and a Searcher for him, and Vayne for that matter. Grant, this is an FF12 Searcher, which means you can grab Alcid and the singleton copy of Vayne that's in the deck. Because there's a lot of big forwards that do really well at the moment, 5 CP+, so Vayne is actually quite an important character. And then because we have Reagan in the deck, you can always bring him back to hand if he dies if you actually need him. And then Genesis is a really solid card in general, it's just very, very powerful. I'll talk with Snow. I will mention that I put 3 Snow in the deck and 2 Lightning, purely because I think it's more important to get Snow early than Lightning, because once you already have Lightning, Snow's a little bit he doesn't really do anything, so you're probably just going to discard him for CP, but that early game Snow Lightning play is actually very powerful. Jake is a card that I've been wanting to experiment with, particularly in this deck, because there are so many come into play forwards like Genesis, Alcid, Rigdia, Alcid, Ununite, etc. Being able to give them power and then haste is actually really powerful. Noel is, we've already covered that he's a really powerful forward with haste because of Lightning, but now this gives us a way of giving him haste in other ways and additionally giving him power at the same time. Suddenly a 12k attacker that can attack twice is really quite threatening, but you've also got Genesis coming in at 11k with haste, and a Genesis with haste should never be ignored, ever. Having a Jake on the board is another card that makes your opponent think, oh, I have to get rid of that, otherwise I can't do much. And I just thought that it was a really nice shout to be able to kind of just go in with some of these forwards. You know, obviously Illawarra already has haste, you've got plenty of ways of granting haste. I did consider Electric Jellyfish for this deck, but then I thought, no, I wanted to keep it to the singleton monster so that Locke would always grab the same target, and I thought that that would be really, really cool. But Jake is a card that like I said, I want to experiment with. And then, like I said, just a lot of the cards in this deck are designed to make your opponent think twice about what they can and can't do, because it's actually a weak point in play for a lot of players, because I've suffered from this myself sometimes, where I'll sit there and go, I could attack, but I don't know if I should. And you end up in like an analysis paralysis kind of mode, where you just go, I don't really know what I can and can't do. And this deck kind of plays on that. So if your opponent like hesitates for too long, you can sit there and just go, play an Ultimecia, dull your forwards, or freeze all your forwards and backups, etc. Play a Genesis with haste and attack you. Play a Rigdia and an Alcid. Give Rigdia haste with Lightning, give Alcid haste with Jake. There's like loads of plays that if your opponent takes too long, they can suffer for it. But similarly, if they go too aggro, you can keep things frozen, you can keep them dull, you can just, you know, rip their boards open. Twilight Odin can go in and start wrecking things. Idea then can make Maya come in and start making things more difficult. And you're still maintaining a decent amount of value the whole time because of the Sarah Hurdy Mog engine. And then Emperor Gestal and Camlanaut are just big threats that are just easy removal that mean that we don't have to go too heavily into summons, so Glacio is just the only summon that we need to run. Anyways, that's going to be it from me today. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope that this deck profile gives you some food for thought on things you might want to experiment with. I've highlighted a few Opus X cards in this deck, and as I said earlier, do stay tuned for tomorrow, where I'll be showing you a little bit more about Opus X and hopefully some things that you may not have seen before, which would be quite nice. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications so that you can know any videos I have coming out as soon as they arrive. And if you want to know any more information about Dissidia, Final Fantasy Opera Omnia, or FFTCG, or anything else, then you're welcome to join my Discord channel or come to message me on Facebook or anything like that. Anyways, thank you very much again, and hopefully I will see you guys in the next video. Take care!